I'm the operator with my pocket calculator.
Welcome, dear ladies and gentlemen. Should you be asking yourself what language I am using here, then I dare to say that it's intended to be English. Today I'd like to present you a very special slide rule produced by Faber-Castell, probably in the early 50s. It is a slide rule which is intended to indicate the pregnancy duration and therefore also the expected date of delivery. No other comparable slide rule was known until my specimen was offered on eBay in May 2016. No doubt you can easily imagine that the bid battle was cruel and in some sense even bloody, but finally I won. Admittedly not without some injury inflicted. It is obvious that I, and perhaps also you, are too old to use these valuable instruments for your own sake, but perhaps you can gain some precious information for your relatives in the next younger generation. Let us have a look at this slide rule. It is a wooden piece painted with an egg color. You see 2 month scales, each with the adequate numbers of days. This here. The 2 scales are against each other by a gap of 6 months. The scale above begins with the January, the scale below with July. On the tongue you find 3 scales indicating 1 year in 3 modes: months, weeks and days. On the back side of the tongue a row of icons show the development of the uterus. Luckily the seller of this rule preserved an instruction leaflet, a simple handout containing a few instructions on how to use this slide rule. So, how can we now calculate the provided date of delivery? Well, you move the number 1 of the tongue scale on the date of the last menstruation by saying you, I hope it is clear who is being meant. Then the cursor has to be set on the corresponding date. Now you can read the month, the week, and the day of your pregnancy. The short, thick black horizontal line indicates the beginning of the perceived movement of the feces. The end of the pregnancy is marked by a Gauss curve, which is something really special on the slide rule. The source of the image used for it is to be found in the research of the inventors of the slide rule. Please allow me to explain this later on. Sorry, the average length of pregnancy is 282 days. This is known as the Nageli rule. Franz Nageli was a gynecologist from Heidelberg who lived from 1778 until 1851. The above result can be gained by applying the following formula: 7 days minus 3 months plus 1 year. That gives me the opportunity to introduce the inventor. Only 4 persons of children decide to arrive on time. You see the very small digit engraved on the top of the Gauss curve. Who calculate this percentage? It was Hans Osermann, one of the 2 persons whose name are stamped on the back side of the slide rule. The other name is Heinrich Martius. Here you see first A few biographical information about Heinrich Martius. I let you to read this. So good? His most important book was the Lehrbuch der Gynäkologie, which was revised several times, also by his son Gerhard Martius, 1924 until 1989. Before I began with my research about the Faber-Castell 5188, I had been looking for descendants of these two persons. I was only successful in the case of Martius. His grandson Joachim is still alive, and my first guess was that it was his father Gerhard who is meant by the name of the backside of the rule. But Joachim, who is by the way an excellent photographer, couldn't give me any hint about the slide rule. And after a couple of weeks, I noticed that Martius had never been in Göttingen, and also that he was, at the time at which the slide rule was produced, too young. Concerning Hans Hosemann, Wikipedia doesn't reveal much about his life. Here a few information about him. That are the two most important books by Hans Hosemann. And here 2 pages, the inside. So, please let me now return to the Gauss curve. Martius himself quoted the research of Hosemann concerning the spread of delivery dates. They calculated about 10,000 delivery dates and used the accumulated data to design the curve, which was first showed in the book Lehrbuch der Gynäkologie. You see that the same figure was transferred without any change on the slide rule. The same figure was published in the following editions. Professor Kleiner was very busy and controlled the editions until 1988. Can we say anything about the date of issue? Definitely not. First I asked the company Faber-Castell, but the responsible persons wrote me that they only know that the slide rule was probably produced between 1950 and 1954. It is very strange that Martius concealed in his principal book that a special slide rule exists, which he had invented himself. Instead, he recommended other instruments in his book, such as, for instance, the circular slide rules, one called Gravidameter nach Dr. A. Gengenbach, and the other being named Gravidarium nach Dr. Escher und Ketsch. In the edition supervised by the son Gerhard, the list of instruments remained without change. The slide rules for obstetrics continued to be produced until today. Here is one from 1985, the Krüger, which is published on the website rechnerlexikon.de. And surprisingly, midwives still used circular slide rules. A Swiss company still distributes this circular slide rule with many supplement scales among nurses. And if you search for further examples on Google, you get many pictures of slide rules still in use. The seller of the Faber-Castell 5188 told me that she got the item from her uncle who dealt with Hausemann and Martius. I assume that this slide rules was a kind of prototype and only available for friends and peers of Hausemann and Martius. And after a trial phase, the users reject the project. I guess the slide rule was too bulky. Perhaps, and with this I'd like to end my speech, the most important question is not when the child will be born, but who the father is. Often the answer is surprising, if not shocking. Here was the plan to show a shortcut of Star Wars. The moment Darth Vader tells his son that he is his father. So but it doesn't work with this program. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Perhaps your information is important, that it exists probably a second.
This slide rule was not known or barely known. He has one copy of it, and I found out that there is another copy in the archives of Faber-Castell, but they just don't know about the borders. Just have the inventory list, and that's it. Yes?
Yes, I have a question. All the rules you showed were looking at the human range of.
Yes, yes.
Now I am a volunteer in a zoo, and for instance, right now we have a pregnant elephant. We have many other animals that have very different pregnancy lengths of pregnancy, and I'm wondering, is there any rule?
Yes,
with a variation?
Yes, there is. Well, I don't have the picture with me. I found a picture of, or two even, of rules which just show the period for those creatures you find actually well, it's used. So pigs, horses. What was it? Cows? Well, something like that. Just the usual animals you find on the farm. And this was just as watch marks and on a calendar. Right. So yes, there is. But I doubt that there will be one for specific for an elephant. That would be too specific, I suppose.
It's only 22 months.
Okay. Good guess. Well, and the other thing is the problem, of course, is with these set differently Shakespeare's plays. That's the plan for next year. When? Well, it's always sometime in September, at a date very similar to this year, namely 21st and 22nd of September 2018. So everybody, please take out your calendars, your agendas, and write it down. So, what? So, and again, we have a theme, and if it's Shakespeare's plays, it has to be something with that. So it's from sonnets to sums. Okay, you know what to do. Everybody, pick out, go to the bookshop, read your Shakespeare again, find good quotes to make nice presentations. Yeah. Everybody has to do so. So you recognize the quotes during the presentation, please. Yeah, very. It's at the Stratford Hotel, The Brit and the English have also a certain tradition, namely to make a display that is to call out and for people and bring along their specific thing for this theme, for display, and that is early British rules and secondly long scale rules. So again, dates we need, a certain notice to intend the paper so that they know what's going on, deadlines and all that. And the important thing is they're really hurried to have those things, everything ready. You can read that all on the website. But first, I have to give a warning or an information. First, there is this place, Stratford-upon-Avon, south of Birmingham. That's the place. But there are several other Stratfords in Britain. Please, Stratford-upon-Avon. What else is on the map? There is a place called Milton Keynes, which is actually not meant, but a place nearby. Actually, a place nearby is something about here. Yes, where we already have been in 2012, namely Bletchley Park. And this is just a reminder, anybody traveling to Britain, that they have there the National Museum Computing, and of course there's also a display by the UK SRC, by the UK slide rule collector. So go along there, have a look even more, and if you've been there, just a refresher, because lots of that is refreshed because many things there belonged to Colin Burns and were sold a year ago. So plan your trip. This is a view of the hotel, and most important is next to the date you wrote in your notes, that you write down this web address, this URL, UKSRC or UK, you should know that, and IM 2018.